Okay, I'm going to bring the sketch that I made in Photoshop, or that I worked on the contrast in Photoshop. I'm going to bring that into an Illustrator document. I set this up to be roughly the same size as the sketch that I had created there. And now I'm going to go to File and Place and find that sketch and go ahead and place it. I'll click on it and place the image, adjust it to where I want it to be. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this on its own layer, this image, so that I can lock it. And also there's a couple other things I can do here. For instance, I can go in and deselect the print and select to make the image grayer by dimming it 50%. Now I've got that one locked. I'll create a new layer to put on top, and that's where I'll be working on doing my vector image. First off, I'm going to go ahead and grab make sure I've got a stroke and no fill for this case. And I'm going to grab my uh, pencil. I like to color the stroke that I'm working with, although the color is going to change later on anyway, but I like to color it so that I can see what I'm doing. With your pencil, and these things are slightly different adjustments on the newer versions of Illustrator, but you can have something that is either more precise or more smooth. And I'm going to go ahead and work with a slightly thicker stroke here. So I'm just going to draw with my pencil here in a fairly smooth, not so much precise way. I like to use a pencil because it allows me to just kind of go over the area, and then I'll come back with the pen tool a little bit later and adjust that. I noticed that I didn't quite go all the way and finish that. It's still an open path, so I'm going to go in and close the path by using the pen tool. Or you could select those 2 points and do a Command J and join them. Obviously, I got a little kink going on there, so I'm going to go ahead and fix this. I'm going to select those points that I want to work with. And now I'm going to go under Object and go down to adjust the Simplify menu here. Again, this palette looks a little bit different than the newer versions of Illustrator, but it's basically the same idea. It's adjusting the number of points in there. It's simplifying the image by taking out points, and it allows me to kind of determine how simplified that will get. Now I'm going to go through and do that to some of the other areas here. Again, by using that lasso select tool, I can select a bunch of points. And now I'm only working on those points. If I just use my general select and selected the whole thing, I could do it overall, but I wouldn't have much control over that. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of adjust it. I can see what's going on with that. Looks good, so I'll say okay. That's one way. Another thing that I often do too is go ahead and get my pen tool, which I'm going to do I think shortly here, and go in and add or subtract or adjust points there. For instance, I may get rid of some of those points and maybe put a more of a corner point and less of a curve point on this Bezier here, right? By going, and I'm doing these things by just using the keys on here. If you go and select your direct select tool first before you go to the pen tool, then when you're in the pen tool, you can use the option key to get to those adjusting Bezier points, or you can hold down the command tool or key to get to the direct select tool here. So I'm going to go in, now I'm just drawing straight lines down. I'm using the line tool to do that. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and adjust this line to make it look like what I want all the other ones to look like. Thickness and how with a curved pointed edge to or a point on it, and also how that is the profile of it here. I needed to swap it because it was obviously upside down. Now I'm going to go and get the width tool here in a moment, and I'm going to go ahead and adjust it further. That initial profile gave me the starter point, but that's obviously way too sharp a point for a comb. So I'm going to go out here and click and drag on that. If I wanted to adjust it from just one side, I'd have to hold down the Option key. But now I'm just adjusting these, getting them to about the size and scale that I want them to be. Now what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and select that thing here. I'm turning on that other layer so I can see what's going on. And I'm going to click on it. I use my select tool, click and drag while I'm holding down the Option key. That allows me to make a clone. And now I'm just Command D, which actually duplicates that last action. So a clone that moved a certain distance. Got too many in there. I'm going to move this one over a little bit, and then I'll select all of these and I'll space them out according to their centers. By selecting that, it spaces them between the two outmost pieces of that or selections. It looks good, pretty happy with that. Now what I'm doing is expanding it. That profile that I had on there was just an effect. Now that I have expanded that, now those are actually shapes. They're not even lines anymore, they're just shapes. And now I just flipped my base shape for the comb that way. So I still need to do a little bit of work here. I'm going to go back into my outline mode so I can really clearly see what I'm doing and select the one thing I want to manipulate. I'm going to use the eraser here. As long as it's the only thing that's selected, it's the only thing that will be affected by the eraser. If I don't have anything selected, then anything that I hit with the eraser will be affected. But in this case, I've just, with that one tooth of the comb, I'll get rid of the excess stuff that I don't need. And then, let's see, I'm going to get back, zoom back a little bit so I can see what's going on. I'm going to select all this stuff and go to my Pathfinder palette and do a unite. Once I do that, now this is one shape, right? And I can go in and I'm going to do a little bit more adjustment. For instance, I got that kind of wonky edge there. So I'm going to go in and maybe get rid of some of these points and adjust other ones here, right? Go ahead and hold down the Option key while I'm in the pen tool, and it automatically will put me into the adjust that anchor point. I'll make it into a curve point. Then I just have to hold down the Command key. It becomes a selection tool while I'm still in the pen tool. I'm going to do a little bit to the other side as well. I actually had a comb like this when I had hair back when I was a teenager. Not since then, though, unfortunately. So I'm adjusting this. I need to move some points around a little bit, maybe get rid of some. Get that, adjust that point there, make it more of a corner point. Maybe get rid of that or just make it a better curve here with that. All right, let's see how this looks. I'm going to zoom out here. Looks good, right? So that's the beginning with this. So I'll go ahead and save.